roll up. I'm like, hey, I just got debuted. They pull me underneath of the stadium, like right behind the dugout. I'll never forget this. I get dressed. By the time I'm dressed, everybody's walking out. It's game time. I'm walking out. And everything's a blur.
All right, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Beat the Odds. I'm your host, Caleb Lopez, along with Mr. Trey Bergstrom, and we're back here with another awesome person, Mr. Travis Lakins Sr. Just an amazing guy, one of my business partners, a guy I look up to in baseball, major league player, right-handed pitcher, nasty cutter, doing some cool things in business. He's got a beautiful family. Travis, we're super pumped up to have you on the episode today, on the podcast and on the show. So thanks for being here, man.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. Looking forward to this. Been looking forward to it. It's crazy. I kind of got the chills. Like this was my first type of interview in a while. Like last interview I got was in a big league clubhouse. So this is cool.
Yeah, man. We're great to have you. Trey, good to see you, man.
Good seeing you, brother. Travis, glad to have you, man. Excited for this.
Yeah, I'm pumped. Can't wait.
So let's get to it. I have tons of questions I want to ask you. I'm sure there's a bunch of people that want to hear your journey and your story, but I know you and Alexis, you guys have been married for quite some time now, and there's been some ups, there's been some downs, and of course, our entire show is based off of how we can overcome adversity and beat the odds of life and just overcome. But first, I would love to talk about your history and backstory for those watching that don't really know who you are and kind of where you've been and what you've done. But talk a little bit about your background, your journey, your story, and of course, being at the Big O, Ohio State, the Buckeyes. Some Ohio State fans watching this. Give us some journey about just your history, and then of course what it was like playing at the Ohio State.
Yeah, man. It's been going back, man. Just thinking about it is crazy. This will be year 27 of playing baseball. Just crazy to think, like going back to the T-ball stages at 4. Man, I've always been underdog. I was always undersized growing up. I graduated high school at 5'6".
Didn't know that.
Like 120 pounds, 130 pounds. So it wasn't that I was this flamethrower in high school. Like I just was like 87 to 88 and didn't walk nobody. Threw all 5 pitches for strikes. Like it was just one of those things. Actually going into college, like thinking about college, I wanted to play hoops. I was dreaming of being a hooper. One of my best friends, actually, Luke Kennard, plays in the NBA. Actually going to get to watch him Friday in Orlando, which is pretty cool. But yeah, man, I graduated at 5'6", 120 pounds. Didn't really think that I had a chance to get to where I was dreaming. Never in my mind, is there any 5'6" big leaguers? No. Any 5'6" NBA guys? Not since Muggsy Bogues. So it was one of those things where it was just, I had to carry that different type of attitude, confidence in me. So it was like, how am I going to beat these guys? So I was always talking trash. I was always the guy that people hated playing against in basketball. Like pesky defender, and had to learn how to shoot farther back because I was small. So my three-point line was 19 foot in high school. I was shooting at like 24 feet. I had to, So it was one of those things. Yeah, man, ended up having actually more Division I scholarship offers in basketball than baseball, which is crazy to think.
Did not know that. That's
I
pretty
didn't
cool.
know that either.
Yeah, I scored 1,100 points in high school in 3 years. At the time, had the three-point record, all-time record at my school until Luke obviously crushed that. But yeah, and decided that there's not many white guys in the NBA. Honest, there's not, you don't see them anymore. And I was like, let's go throw the little white ball around and see if we can make a living. So going into my freshman fall at Ohio State, was going to be like a weekday starter. Was still I gained like 15 or 20 pounds. So I was still 5'6", 5'7", like 135, 140 pounds at this time, and was just a strike thrower. Didn't blow nobody's doors off. Ended up leaving the fall, knowing what kind of my role was going to be. Didn't really change anything. I still was doing my normal thing, long tossing during this winter. Next thing I know, I didn't even feel anything, didn't have no growth pains. I get back to school and I was looking kind of down on my head coach, which was weird. I was like, hold on a second. I was like 6'1" at that time. I gained like 40 pounds in 3 months and it didn't really change nothing, which was crazy. First of all,
Did you get tested for steroids
I was
after
about to say, where's that HGH coming in at?
11, listen, I don't know if this is some type of NCAA record, but I got tested 11 times my freshman year.
Mm.
You'd almost have to though. If you're having that's nuts.
Which is understandable. Like I wasn't on nobody's radars in the draft, like nobody. First bullpen during the winter, everybody was like, "Man, you look like you're throwing a little harder." And I was like, "Yeah, I might be." And they were like, "Do you want to know how hard you're throwing?" I was like, "Of course." They're like, "Well, you were 95 to 97." And I was like, "Nah, you guys are playing around." Y'all were joking. Um, and then we had like that's when TrackMan started becoming a thing.
Mhm.
Rap soda and that stuff started like just getting into the business. Um,
For those that are watching that don't know what TrackMan is, it's basically recording all the stats and the data of how hard you throw, spin rate, seeing how far the ball goes when you hit it. And, it measures a bunch of stats when it comes to sports. So anyways, for those that don't know what TrackMan is.
See, so I'm so far removed from baseball. When I hear TrackMan, my first thought goes to golf. Because
Yeah,
TrackMan
it's
wasn't
for
around
any
when I was
sport.
it wasn't around when I was playing.
and I was like, I'm gonna have to see this before I believe it.
Mhm.
Next bullpen, I was 96 and 98. And I was like, what is going
That
on?
is nuts, dude.
After my third or fourth bullpen, I got the closer as a freshman. Um, yeah, I mean, it kind of took off from there. And then I ended up being the closer for a little bit. And then it was the setup role. And then it was everything. Like if crap hit the fan, I was in the game. As a freshman, I led the team in innings out of the bullpen, counting starters and everybody. I had one start that year, and it just kind of took off from there. My first pitch was 99 miles an hour at UCF, hit a kid in the head. So that's how I started my college career. Concussion, off the, felt terrible, but I was like, sorry guys, I just gained 10 miles an hour. I don't know where it's but my first collegiate start or outing went 5 innings at UCF, number 10 in the country. We ended up upsetting him there, which was wild. And then it kind of took off from there. I ended up actually there was a process where I decommitted or I left. I was going to enter the portal before the portal. I was done with school. I did not like school, so I was going to go the JUCO route. I was like, I'm going to be one and done. I want to get drafted. I found out that I could get drafted, so I was like, let's roll. I don't want to do school no more. So there was like a month or two period where I was gone from Ohio State. Come to find out, my coach calls me back at Ohio State, and I was ended up draft eligible as a sophomore. Because of age requirements. So I was like 45 days. If you turn 21 after 45 days after the draft, you're eligible for the draft. So I was like, all right, I'll come back. I'll do this again. And ended up being a starter. Had some up and down outings. Everybody knew who I was at that point. I was kind of not bragging at all, but I was kind of on people's radar. I was throwing 95 to 97, 98 miles an hour. Ended up getting drafted after that year, sixth overall, or sixth overall, I wish. Sixth round by the Boston Red Sox, and kind of just took off from there.
This was 2015.
2015. So that's
Yeah,
how
and I literally got drafted the year after you, and we weren't in the same league, but yeah, I remember seeing those guys the year before that and stuff like that. So yeah, 2015, 2016,
I
it's
think the first three picks of my draft went Bregman number one. It was three straight. No, Dansby Swanson number one,
hmm.
Bregman number two, and Rogers number three. And then Benintendi was in my draft. There was some dudes in that draft.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Walker Bueller. So, but that's a little background.
So hold on, I got a question coming from graduate high school, 5'7". I mean, my freshman year, I mean, I was all of 5'7", 165 soaking wet. So hearing that explosion, just in your freshman year, going in like it's not even like it went your entire freshman year. You're like that's what you went in the fall, and then what you're producing in the spring. That is bananas. But I gotta ask. I don't want. I hate the term little man syndrome, so I don't want to say that. But coming from being overlooked, always a smaller guy, to stepping into, you're still not a giant. You're not walking out at 6'5", but you
Right.
cross over that, that glorious 6 foot status.
Yeah.
But walk me through, did anything change in your mindset going from, upper 80s to now upper 90s within, a few months span on what that did for your mentality, the way you approached practice, working out, and going about your craft? Like, did that change that where you felt like, I don't have to work as hard, for some reason it just sprouted upon me, or did you keep that same mentality the whole way through?
I think the good thing for me is that I kept that same mentality because in my mind, I'm like, that mentality probably got me here.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like, yeah, I had to work on a bunch of different things because my body wasn't used to being 6'1". So my whole mechanics changed. I got stronger without even realizing it. So all that, yes, I had to change, but mentality wise, I'm so happy that I stayed the same because that just, and especially moving straight into a closer role, like that's the mentality you got to have.
Yeah.
You got to be an absolute bulldog in a closer role. Not saying that you can't be that as a starter, but no, I stayed the same, and I think that's what helped me so much is that I wasn't changing so many different things at once. I just kept
Awesome.
the same mentality and was like, let's roll with this.
Yeah, no, that's cool. And I know with throwing hard like that, that puts strain on your arm for sure. I know you've had a couple of setbacks. But before we jump into some of that, like I know you got drafted and got caught up pretty quickly, right? I mean, to walk us through, the debut, where you were, like give us a little insight on, because I mean, a lot of people that are watching this, they probably have kids that they want them to make it, or maybe some people just hearing. I always love hearing the debut stories, but give me a quick debut highlight, what that felt like, and just where you were.
It's so hard to really explain. Just a little minor league review. Got hurt in 2016, my first pro year. Came back 2017, got hurt, got to double A that way. So like I would manage to say I got through the system pretty quickly, bearing both of my injuries in 2 years. Um, as a starter, got to AAA and at the end of 18, was on the verge of getting called up in 18. So that'd have been crazy to get a World Series my first year in the
Yeah.
big. That was the best year of probably my pro career. Ended up with I think a 2.1 ERA through like 80 or 90 innings. 2019 Rolls invited to big league camp. 40-man roster got added to the 40-man. Got sent down pretty quick in big league camp. Obviously, like they got their dudes. I mean, Kimbrel's in the bullpen. Like, there's no chance I'm good. It's one of those things where you got Chris Sale, David Price, Nathan Eovaldi. Like they weren't making any big moves after just winning the World Series. Um, April comes around, April 24th. The big leagues had a doubleheader. Our AAA was in Pawtucket, which was only about 45 minutes away. We had just got done taking BP, so it's like 5:15. Games at 7 in the big leagues. Manager brings me in. Lakins, you're going to the show. And I was like, Billy Mack, come on. Like, no, I'm not. He goes, hey, you're going to the show. You need to get there now. You're pitching tonight. And I was like, oh, okay. Like, and it was so funny is because when I got called up, like, or when I wore to the field was just kind of like, it wasn't a bummish look, but I was like, sweatshirt. It was still cold, sweatshirt, like shorts. And when I got called up, Dan Runsler was his name, pitching the big league World Series champ with the Giants. Came up to me, he's like, "Hey, dude, you got to change." I'm like,
Well,
"Okay."
when you just said like, "Hey, you're pitching tonight," when your manager says that to you, when you just said that, my heart literally just sank to my stomach. Like that's like you put me in that seat right there, and what's going through your mind? What are you feeling? Like, I mean, my heart sank for you
Chills.
just a minute ago.
Um, I just got the chills. But my first thing was like, how am I going to get there that quick? I've got to go through Boston traffic.
Yeah.
Got to be there before the game, and it's already 5:30. I'm 45 minutes away. Lex has our baby, our newborn baby that's 6 months old, our dog, and her. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to the show. I need you to pack up the hotel room by yourself, and I need you to come pick me up. We're going to Boston. She was like, Trav, you're lying. Like, it was one of those same things. Like, is this really happening? And then he gets there. I said, and I need you to lay a button up long sleeve, my slacks, my dress shoes, and bring some hair product because I got to dress nice. I was like, I need it. And lay it in the top in the back seat and I'll get changed. She's like, okay. And I'll never forget this. On the way to Boston, we might have said 6 words to each other the whole time. And it was like, she would be like, hey, I'm proud of you. And I'm like, thanks, I love you. And it was like that for a whole hour and like 15 minutes. We get to the stadium. I roll up. I'm like, hey, I just got debuted. They pull me underneath of the stadium, like right behind the dugout. I'll never forget this. I get dressed. By the time I'm dressed, everybody's walking out. It's game time. I'm walking out. Um, and everything's a blur. Like, I'm not really sure what's going on, at that time. And phone rings in the fifth. Lakins get going. And I just kind of sat there for a minute and I'm looking around. I'm like, is this really happening? I get hot, boom, I'm ready. Cora walks out to the mound. Umpire waves me down, and I'm like, the whole way to the mound, I'm like, please don't fall over, please don't fall over, please don't fall over. Had no idea the situation. Didn't really care. So I come in, throw my warm-up pitches. First and third, 1 out. So they were up 2-1. I'm like, here we go. Yamir Candelario was my first hitter. Fastball, strike one. Curveball, strike two. Fastball up, ball one. Curveball, strike three. And I was like, okay. Next batter, Nick Castellanos. Cutter, first pitch, ground ball back to me. I flipped to first base, walked to the dugout, blacked out. Corey goes, do you know what you just did? And I'm like, AC, not really. Just kind of walked down. Ended up pitching on 2 2/3. Gave up 1 run, had a couple punch outs. Yeah, it
So the
was
first ever batter you faced, you struck out.
punch out, 4 pitches.
Heck yeah.
Dude, like my adrenaline right now, I'm like, I can't process that. I can't process that. To where you were at 5 o'clock, to them going, oh, hey, by the way, this is what's happening. It's like, you're joking. I'm not getting called up. Like, oh yeah, you're probably pitching too. It's like, now I know you're messing with me.
Exactly.
To get, Lex to get all that stuff going, and then you got to drive. Where were you in your head? I mean, you said you and Lex didn't really talk a whole lot, but like, you're trying to get dressed. You're trying to process this. What's that car ride mindset? Are you still trying to believe, like, am I being punked? Is this real, or are you getting into game mode?
So the closer I got, at first it was one of those things. Was like, hey, dude, it's time. Like that first initial, like, this is what you've been dreaming of. And then as the closer I got, it's like, all right, it's time to go. Like it's time to lock it the heck in. Let's roll.
I can't imagine. I mean, I obviously Travis, dude, that's one of the most banana stories I've heard on a debut. But the way you just explained that, like, I can almost picture myself sitting next to you and walking through that with you, the way you just explained that. And to sit next to you in the bullpen and be like, Lakins, let's go. And then you getting called in. I can't even imagine running in. I can't even imagine running up. If I'm up there, my adrenaline has got to be coming outside my body. Like, I'm like, you expect me to throw a strike right now? Like, this is going up the freaking backstop, man. Like, that is such a sweet ass story.
It
is. The only downfall of my debut is my parents couldn't be there because it happens
so quick. Oh yeah.
I called my dad and I'm like, dude, I'm going to the show. My dad starts crying immediately. I start crying. I'm in the locker room. I'm like, dude, I can't deal with you right now. I remember that phone call so easy. I was like, dude, I can't deal with you right now. And I hung up. And I was like, I know I can't call my mom. So I was like, because she's going to be balling anyways. So yeah, it was nuts.
Dude,
were they able to watch it online?
Yeah, it was on TV, so it
Sweet.
was yeah, they got to watch it.
Dude, my heart's still beating because here's what's really cool about the mind. And I know we talk a lot about mindset on our, me and Trey, we always try to bring up mindset and just like what that feels like, what that looks like. But the cool thing about the mind is it can't tell the difference between a vividly imagined dream or situation and reality.
Yeah.
And like when you just described that, like Trey's saying, it felt like we were there, like we're going through that process, even though we didn't actually experience it. It's
Sure.
crazy how the brain works, where we just and a lot of people, and especially in our line of work, you guys know best. People stop dreaming, they stop imagining, they stop, living, they stop, just their imagination kind of goes away. You hit your 20s and you don't hit that dream. Not people don't get drafted, that
Oh,
they stop dreaming and they turn their dreamer off. But you, man, just sharing that story, you can't tell the difference. Like literally, it's me sitting right here. Even if you hear the story 20 times, like you can still be in that place, and it's just powerful, man. And not many people can say that they pitched in the big leagues, and it's a pretty awesome thing. And as far as just your favorite memory, I mean, that's got to be up there, your debut. But what are some other memories that you have as far as just playing in the big leagues? And I know you're working your way back there, and we'll kind of get to that story here soon. But yeah, give us a quick top memory or story.
this is going to be probably crazy to say because I guarantee a lot of players aren't going to say this that got there. I don't know which one's number one for me. We're playing the New York Yankees in Boston in September. David Price goes down the week before. We didn't have a starter for the Saturday game, and I'm showering in the shower, AC comes in the shower, goes, Lakins, you're starting tomorrow. I just kind of looked around. I was like, anybody else hear that? Did anybody else hear that? And I'm like, all right. So my first big league start at Fenway on Fox. There's 51,000 fans there, and I'm starting
Against the Yankees.
the
Against
New
the
York
Yankees,
Yankees.
man. God.
Not only did I get to I was there in the rivalry. Like we're in the playoff hunt. Like it was one of those things that was absolutely bonkers. It was just a short start. It was only 2 innings, which is still whatever.
Take it.
Um, I didn't go to sleep that night. I told my wife, I was like, hey, I'm starting, and it's like, she's like, you gonna go to sleep? I'm like, I can't.
Mm-mm.
She's like, why not? And I'm like, I can't really explain this. And yeah, I was the first one to the field when the starter's supposed to be the last one to the field. I was the first one there. I didn't know. Everybody's like, what are you doing here? I'm like, I can't sit in my hotel room anymore. And I didn't know where else to go. I've already had 2 cups of coffee. And yeah, it was crazy. And I remember it like the back of my hand. LeMahieu lined out to right. I punched out Judge the next at bat. Um, who was the 3 hole? I think it was Edwin Encarnacion. Flew out to center. Me and Mookie Betts could have got all 6 outs. Didi Gregorius flew out to center. I punched out Gleyber Torres next and punched out Gary Sanchez next. And I went back to the dugout and I said, AC, I want more. And he was like, you haven't worked up. I said, I want more. He was like, I can't. So that moment is right there next to the debut, if not.
Hmm. Wow.
That's hard to beat, man. That Yankee Red Sox rivalry, especially late in the season in September, man. Growing up, I mean, Yankees fan. My dad grew up. He's in New York, big Yankees fan. So now being in Tennessee, Braves and still Yankee fans, like big Buffalo Bills fan too up in New York. But that rivalry, watching Red Sox Yankees growing up, man, that was baseball.
Yeah.
And you got to be a part of that, man. That's so freaking sweet.
Yeah, I got 3 outings against the Yankees, I believe. And then once I got to Baltimore, I had plenty, but it's a little different. Boston, New York versus Baltimore.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. Speaking of that, and Trey, I know you probably have some things to ask too, but like I remember. So let's fast forward to Baltimore. Let's talk about some of the setbacks, right? So those are kind of the highs. Baseball, I mean, there's ups, there's downs, but you got to kind of stay even keel, and that's just like life, man. You can't get too high on the highs, can't get too low on the lows. You kind of have to have that mellow reality, where reality is kind of somewhere in the middle there. But I remember you in Baltimore where you're like, "Hey, I'm pitching tonight versus the Yankees." So I remember another Yankee story, and I tuned in whenever you were there. I went to school with Josh Donaldson, right? So you faced him. I know I hate to bring this up, but I kind of have to, right?
Fair
Um,
enough. Fair enough.
but let's talk about, we're talking about the highs, but let's talk about some of the lows because I think this is important as we talk about just the journey of life and just people watching. Baseball has so many different analogies to life and things like that. But I remember watching, and it's like somebody goes down, you get called into the first inning or something like that. And it was like, who led off? It was Judge, Stanton, and Donaldson. They were like back to back to back, right? And I was watching, I'm like, oh, let's go, Trav. He's about to shove it. Literally, it was like double home run or something stupid. I'm like, well, that's not a great way to start out the year. It was like your first
I remember.
outing of the year. And
I think I walked Judge. Stanton hit a double, so it was second, third, and
and then Donaldson hit a 3-run jack.
hit a 3-run jack to right center.
Oppo Taco,
You,
just
you couldn't just say he had a 3-run homer. It's like he had a home 3-run jack. I mean, it was smoked.
But
Yeah,
let's talk about that, right? Like some of the lows, and this relates to life, but like how do you overcome? How do you reset? And then not to mention later on in the year, elbow issues, surgeries, and then you have some injuries happening that kind of, just were lingering. And how do you overcome that and to get to where you are now, where you've made a huge comeback, but talk a little bit about the setbacks and what's your mindset around that?
yeah. I would like to say like Alexis. This is what Alexis calls me on. Like, I've just always been like, whatever happens, happens for a reason. Like, and I can forget things very quickly, and I think that's how if that's the biggest thing I can tell, like big leaguers are that way. Like, you have to have such a short memory that it is incredible.
Hmm.
Like, I had to still, after Donaldson hit the home run, I still had to go get 3 outs. No matter what happened, I still had to go get 3 outs and somehow get back in the dugout. So it was just one of those things where like, and also they're big leaguers. They're the best hitters in the world. I'm not going to go dominate every game. And I know that. And that mentality has just kind of helped me through a lot. Um, until I got hurt, because that was my first huge setback was in 21. I was actually starting in Houston on my birthday. Um, and it happened before the game. I felt something weird before the game. Anyways, I pitched the first inning, 3 up, 3 down, which that lineup was nuts too. Gosh. Altuve leading off, Correa in the 2 hole, um, Alvarez in the 3 hole.
And then Bregman.
Bregman was actually out that game. Thank the
Oh,
Lord. Um,
thankfully.
but I go 3 up, 3 down in the first, knowing I was hurt. Like, I couldn't throw anything but a fastball. Um, Second inning, I come out, couldn't throw nothing. I was all over the map, all over it. And then one pitch, I tried to throw a curveball and I threw it up and it hit the back of the net. I was like, I'm done. Um, and I didn't know really what to think. As pitchers, you're like elbow problems, TJ. Next day, like I couldn't move hardly. Go get my MRI. Structurally, I was great. Nothing wrong with my UCL. Nothing wrong with like forearm, bicep. Everything was good. So I'm like, what's going on? Go get a CT scan. Fractured my elbow completely, which is very uncommon for pitchers. Like, you never hear that. Fractured, complete fracture. Flew to LA with the team, got surgery in LA. like a 6 month recovery, full recovery, which is obviously a lot shorter than TJ. So that's some light at the end of the tunnel. It's like, I don't have to wait a whole year this time. Like, or this, I don't have to wait a whole year. So I was like, let's roll. I'll be ready for spring training. This happened in June. I'll be ready to go. I don't know if it was me eager to get back, me telling the trainers that I was like, hey, I'm ready before I really was because I was tired of sitting around. But I came back too soon. Felt good enough. Ended up doing the same exact thing in 22. Fractured my elbow again. Also with I had some strain to the UCL nerve, not the ligament, but the nerve. Um, so that happened. Then go to indie ball because I didn't get picked up, obviously, because once teams look at you and your injury history, that's when I hit the lowest of lows, was right there. Been in the big leagues from 2019 to 22, so over a 4 year stretch. I've got 3.5 years in the show, and now I'm on nobody's radar. Um, Went to indie ball, fractured my elbow again. Could not figure out what was going on, what had happened. I gave myself plenty of time. I got into this depressed mindset mode, like I didn't know what to do. Um, Ended up like retiring for a little bit, like 7 months, and I was completely lost. I didn't know what I was like worthy of. It was a crazy transition for me, and I didn't know what to do. I was actually coaching, went to coach my high school baseball team, which I'm sitting here, I'm like, this is not me. I was in the big leagues last year. Nothing against high school baseball coaches. It's just that transition of knowing baseball my whole entire life, getting to the top, the highest of highs, and then in 1 year getting flipped around and getting to the lowest of lows.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, my mindset from 21 to 23 was I was a completely different person because of injuries. It was not only ruining myself, I was ruining like my relationship with Alexis. It carried that much weight on me because I didn't know it was like, yeah, I would love to work in this business, but at that time I was like, my pride is in the way and I don't want to do that.
Yeah.
One of those things. And the process of getting back was I took 7 months off and I was like, my baseball career is over and I'm sitting here coaching at my high school. And one day it was literally not to get back into the game of baseball. I was just messing around and I got on the mound and I was 94 to 96. And I was like, all right, I got to give it another go.
You have to. I experienced this. I know Caleb has. I think everybody has. I can only speak from my point of view. Let me know if I'm way off track, way off base. My entire life growing up, when people were like, "Hey, so like, what do you do?" Like, as kids, like, I'm a baseball player. I'm a baseball player. That was my identity. That's who I was. That's where I got, for me, growing up undersized. That's where I got I don't want to say my worth, but like that's where I earned respect. That's how I, went about things. And I was a baseball player. And I remember when, the draft happened in 10, nothing happened. And it was like, you're done. Like you're not, no one's talking to you. Indie ball wasn't really a thing. I got married graduated May, married in July. And it was just like it's time to next phase of life. And I tried to keep it like I was unfazed from it, but that time period, it took me a good bit to find out like who am I? What direction do I want to go? And I remember talking to my dad about I was at a low, man. I was at a low, newly married, no kids. But I was talking to my dad one time, and I was just like, because I worked for my parents' furniture store, and I went from college baseball and not pros, college baseball, to then work in the furniture store, and I'm like, is this my life?
Yeah.
Is this all that's left? Is I get up and I go to work and I make money, pay bills and taxes, and rinse and repeat? I was lost. I was like, this is not what I want to do. It's not. And when my brother got done, same thing. Didn't play any pro ball. He got done, pitching at Lipscomb. He lost. He was lost for that time period. And my dad kind of had to walk us both back from the ledge. Like, hey, man, there's there's more stuff going on, but I can only imagine where you were having that injury stuff coming back, and then coming back into the day-to-day stuff, like, hey man, I got more left in the tank. This ain't where I'm supposed to be yet. Like I'm here, but this isn't my, that I can relate to that, but I can only imagine you feeling that to that degree. And what was, you said that started taking a toll a bit on you and Lex. What was her mindset? What was y'all's conversations like in that transition where you were quote unquote retired but still had gas left in the tank?
I wasn't listening to nobody at that point.
Hmm.
Like it was one of those things I had shut down from everyone. Whatever she was saying to me, I didn't care
Yeah.
because I was so lost in myself. Like my wife and my mom were on the same page. It was like, hey, there's more to life than baseball. My dad's a oh, that's crazy.
I think
He was
all
like,
I think all baseball dads are a little bit crazy. Yes.
he was like, just imagine if you could have worked harder and where you would have been and this stuff. And I'm like, Dad, that's the last thing I need to hear right now.
It's
I'm
like
down.
you ready to throw some gloves on? We going 9 rounds? Like
I've been sitting here. I'm like, dude, I don't need to hear that. I know you're kicking me while I'm down.
Mhm.
One of those things. But the conversations were bland. Like I didn't care.
mm,
I did not care one bit what anybody was saying to me. And that's what started hurting me and Alexis' relationship because she could tell she was trying to help, but I was not wanting to receive any help
right.
because I was so lost.
Hmm.
And then I'm talking, it happened so fast from that mound. When I took the mound, that just messing around, I was signed with the White Sox a month later.
Wow.
A month later, I signed with the White Sox. I didn't have an agent. I found an agent on Twitter. He's like, you got a pro day. And he goes, you're going to go to Indianapolis with our pitching guy. I went and threw in front of him. And there was like 5 or 6 scouts there. I threw great. They wanted to see me throw again. I flew out to Arizona a week and a half later and threw in front of 18 scouts and signed 3 days later.
Heck yes.
That's how quick it happened. I was like, and it shocked us. Because she went from working so much because I didn't do nothing. I wasn't making any money.
Mhm.
So we're like, hey, we still have 4 kids and you're just leaving. I was like, I'm sorry. I didn't think it was happening this quick either. Yeah, but that's what hurt mine and relationship is because I didn't want to do anything. I was so depressed. I could care less about anything going on.
Yeah, I can see that. So that 7 month period, what was now did you think in the back of your mind like I'm retired, but I'm not retired? Like you still had like as a gas in the tank where you wanted another shot, or you completely like baseball is done. I am retired. That dream is gone. I had my ride. That's all I get. Or did you ever feel like you got more left in the tank? And then if you did, were you still working out any at that point? Was it just 7 months of man, you just lost, didn't know what to do, and you weren't touching a baseball?
I was done. I was
Really?
completely done.
Wow.
I've been mentally and physically drained and exhausted after injury, indie ball, hurt again, hurt. And I was done.
Yeah.
I didn't work out. I got lazy. I gained like 15, 20 pounds of not good weight. I was drinking a lot of beer, drinking a lot of bourbon. Like I was done. And then all of a sudden, God had different plans.
Well, what I think is super just impressive and encouraging too is just, man, we all go through struggles, but what I'm super impressed with is, we all need the women in our lives, whether it's our parents or siblings or, our wife, but in this case, it's Alexis. I think was super impressive and super inspiring from my standpoint, being in business with you guys, living life together, seeing the journey is most people in the big leagues, they're like, hey, we're going to ride this out and this is our sole income. Like if you're making 60 to 80 grand a month and, minimum wage in the big leagues, I mean, you're making $500,000 a year. Like you're not thinking, oh, I need a backup plan or a plan B. But what really is cool that most people might not know is Alexis already had a multiple 6-figure business that she built part-time while you were in the big And I think for those of us that may think we have job security, like nothing really is secure. You don't really control anything. To me, it's an illusion
Right.
of job security or a guaranteed paycheck or whatever. But the fact that Alexis built a business because she kind of, not that she predicted that that was going to happen. I mean, hopefully you're about to head to Mexico, play in the league, you're, making multiple thousands of dollars playing, and that you got a good contract now, and hopefully you get another look at the big league soon. But the fact that she already built a multiple six-figure business when she didn't necessarily have to, where most people kind of sit on their job for however long and ride it out, and then they're left with nothing, and there's no generational passed down. And so that's what's really impressive that most people might not know is even behind the scenes when you're dealing with all these things, you got a boss babe wife that's, making things happen where y'all both now can combine y'all's efforts. So speak to that a little bit, like,
Yeah, like I think I would be normal to say this as a baseball player. Like when this opportunity came to Alexis, we only had two kids at the time, so this happened during the COVID era. I didn't want her to work. Like I'm not as we all get to the big leagues and dream of being in big leagues. I'm like, this isn't ending anytime soon.
Right.
Being like delusional a little bit, like yes, it's going to come to an end, but in my mind, I'm like, this is year two of me in the big leagues. This isn't ending anytime soon. We're going to be fine. I'm going to pitch 7, 8 more years in the big leagues. I'm going to sign a huge deal, and everybody's going to be taken care of. Thank God she didn't listen to me. But when she first sat down, and obviously thank the Lord for Jess Foster, because she's the one that introduced my wife to this business. And I could not stand this business for the first 3 or 4 months. I was like, I gave her an ultimatum after month 3. I was like, hey, if I don't see any paycheck coming in, you're done. I'll call whoever I need to call, but you're not working here anymore. It was to that extent.
Yeah.
Because I'm coming home, I'm done at 11 o'clock for game nights, and she's up studying and doing whatever she's doing on these calls. And I'm like, what are you doing?
Mm-hmm.
You haven't been paid yet. And
Mm-hmm.
she's like, you're right. I know. And I'm working and it's going to happen one day. And I'm like, oh, it ain't happened yet. I'm tired of hearing it's going to happen. It was one of those things. I just could not stand it. And she finally got paid like month 3. And it was like $2,000 on her first check. And I'm like, okay, you can keep doing this a little bit. I just wanted to see something.
Yeah.
You're
Yeah.
you're working 40 hours with no pay, and I'm not having it.
We're not used to that. Like,
Exactly.
let's not even talk about baseball. We're just talking about employee mindset. I mean, we're employees of an organization, of a big league team. Like we work for someone else. So we expect, hey, we're going to show up to the field at this time, and we show up and we get paid. That's just what the normal American thinks about. But when you're talking about business, entrepreneurship, you don't get paid just to show up. You get paid to
Mhm.
perform, to get results, to bring more revenue to, whatever service that you're providing. And it's a total different game, you know what I mean? And so I had that same mindset. And then we had a transition from employee to like business owner, entrepreneur mindset where it's like it's not get rich quick, it's not you just show up and you get paid. You have to put in some time, put in some sweat equity and actually get to that point. But I'm glad that it ended up working out because without Alexis and you guys persevering through that, hey, me and my family wouldn't be where we are. So I mean, it's just so cool that just the ripple effect of one decision, one choice, one just collective effort, and it takes both, and
Yeah.
but it's great now that you can go pursue that dream still, where income may not be as much as where it was in the big leagues, but it's about to be right up there,
Yeah.
and now you get to go play in Mexico. But let's talk a little bit about that. A couple more things before we kind of wrap up here. I know Mexico is different. I actually was just in Mexico on a cruise at Cozumel, and it was really cool. But you just signed a deal with the Mexican League, so playing overseas. I know you played this winter in Puerto Rico, and just playing abroad. and internationally. But what are you looking forward to the most playing in Mexico? And, what are some of the big goals this year? And what are you looking to accomplish by doing that?
Yeah, it's crazy how it all like how fast it all turned. Like I'm looking back like where I was last year and I'm like, I'm not doing nothing. I was sitting on the couch, you know? And now I'm going to play. The dream is still alive. Um, I went to Puerto Rico this year and I wanted to be a starter again. I wanted to show everybody that I could throw multiple innings again, whether anybody looked at me as a starter or not, but they could be like, all right, well, he could be a long relief guy for us.
Mhm.
Um, so I wanted to show that, and I absolutely like probably the best I've ever pitched in my entire life in this stretch. I threw 50, I think 51 innings, ended up with like a 1.8 ERA,
Ooh.
like 61 strikeouts or something. Like I threw the ball well. And Mexico came knocking, and the experience in Puerto Rico is probably going to be way different than an experience in Mexico. Because Puerto Rico's tied to the U.S., Mexico's not. So my goals is just the competition's going to be better. Like that's some good competition down there. You got like my middle infield is Jonathan Scope, who's played in the Big East, and Didi Gregorius. That's my
Wow.
that's my middle infield. So it's not like there's no slouches
Hey,
there.
those are Curacao guys. I
Yeah,
mean, that's where my dad's from. I mean, that's Curacao. We got to connect with them. Like, hopefully you
my
can,
middle infield.
dude, let's go. Okay.
That's
Greg
sick.
Bird, if you've heard that name.
Yeah, first baseman for the Yankees for a while.
Yeah.
And
So he's on my team as well. My goal is like I just want to prove again that I can pitch in the big leagues again. Whether somebody gives me an opportunity or not, that's here and there. If I do my job, and it's not like I'm getting to the older ages of the baseball world, but I don't think I am there yet. I'm only 30. I'll be 31 in June. I feel like I got a lot to leave.
hmm,
Um, What would be really like, I think my big goal is, yes, obviously the big leagues, but I would like to get a Japan offer. I would love to go pitch in Korea or Japan. Um,
well, Bauer did it.
Bauer did it. Bauer just re-signed to Japan.
Mhm.
Actually, he actually went to Japan and then pitched in Mexico. The team that I will be playing on in Mexico, lost to Bauer and them in the championship last year in Mexico. And then he just re-signed in Japan. So yeah, I'm looking to see where this goes. I'm not done yet. I'm ready to keep going.
Heck yeah.
Hmm. So cool. So awesome. And once again, this is just another testament of overcoming adversity, beating the odds. I mean, at this point in the game, the statistic and the probability of you even continuing to pitch at 30 years old uh, with all these young pitchers coming up and people throwing 98 to 100 just consistently now, and the talent that's here, like the fact that you're still able to play. I mean, you're about to be 31. Most people don't even make it to that point. They're kind of 1 year, 2 year, maybe 3 years before they got to hang it up. And so the fact that you've had, at least almost a 10-year career playing professionally, like, and it's still the dream's still alive. I think that's just super powerful, man. And when you are done playing, hopefully you do get, you get another shot at the big leagues, and you play another, I don't know, 10 years or whatever it is. The beautiful part about it is you're going to have a really cool retirement plan with with the business you guys have built, and the money you make playing, and giving your kids the experiences that I know they've already experienced more probably in their life than most 50 or 60-year-olds have experienced in their lifetime. So I'm super pumped up for you, man, and I appreciate your time. Trey, I don't know if you had anything else to end on before we call it a day.
No, I mean the main thing that stands out to me, Travis, hearing all this is the perseverance, the commitment, the drive, the passion, the perseverance, and what that takes. Because obviously, when you got drafted, if you would have been like, "Hey, this is going to be your timeline," you'd be like, "That's starts out where I want to be." But obviously, nobody wants to deal with injuries. Nobody wants to deal with setbacks. But it's the setbacks and the adversity and the journey that makes it worth going through. And it's like, obviously the goal is, like you said, let's get back to the bigs. and I, be praying for that, watching for it, for you. That's a big thing. But at the same time, if that never happened, what you even said, hey, to get to go play over in, Korea, Japan, those type of things, that would be a really cool experience because how many guys get to go do that stuff? You played in the Puerto Rican League, you're now going down to Mexico. If you can make it over to Japan or back up into the bigs, your journey is going to be a really cool thing to be able to share with other people, because the cool thing is, I heard Ed Milet talk about this with Dion, is you're going to be able to, as you're getting up, you're only 30, man. But as you continue to age and mature and going through your journey, the impact you're going to be have on other people as you come into contact with them in the coaching, and the mentor role and that kind of stuff, you're going to be able to change and impact so many people's lives, even if it's not the path. We want to go from A to B like that, but we know the journey in anything in life is going to be nuts. The impact you're going to have and the people you're going to be able to influence and meet over this journey of what you're taking, God's got you down, dude. I'm pumped and excited for you, man. I'm just I want you to know, listening to it and then watching it unfold, the perseverance is the big one for me, because a lot of people, when they do get hurt, they'll shut down and they won't keep pushing. So I'm excited and pumped for you, man. Just I want to give you a good freaking slap on the butt and say keep freaking going for all of us where it's when it's over, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it, guys. Yeah, it's at this point, I feel like I'm at a point in my career where it's like I just want to make the most money for my kids. It doesn't matter where that's at because I'm done playing for me.
Mhm.
And I think that's what my biggest mind shift was once I got back into ball after the retirement.
Mhm.
Like, hey, I'm not playing for myself anymore,
Mhm.
which that was a selfish thing that I was doing the first 6 years of my marriage. I was playing for my dream instead of playing for my kids.
Mhm.
That's
If
big.
that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Yep.
Yeah. Well, it's a childhood dream. You're trying to live that out. You were doing it. That's a hard mindset to shift when that's been your childhood dream and you're chasing it, putting all the work, all the crap, all the practices, all the workouts, and then you get to live it. And you're like, I'm going to be a little selfish. With God's help, I got here, man. I didn't just show up and they gave me the spot. I worked my butt off. I'm going to enjoy me for a little bit.
Yep.
That's no, when I hear that, I sort of going, damn right, you deserve that. Like, go freaking go do it, dude.
Exactly.
And
That
and then
may not be
hats
what
off to
Alexis, that may not be what Alexis wants to hear,
no,
but
but my
but
thing,
it's
Alexis,
true. It's true.
hats off to Lex as well, because she's gotten to experience that and be in your corner and be with you, not the fall, but the setback.
Mhm.
But I'm proud of you for having that mindset shift and it acknowledging that, going, okay, I see what I was doing. Here's a better path forward. It's actually more impactful, because there's a lot of guys, dude, they don't come across that mindset shift, and
Yeah.
it is all about them, and they leave bodies in the path forward.
And I that could have been God telling me like, hey, quit being selfish.
Mm-hmm.
The injuries could have been telling me that.
Yeah.
Because my mindset didn't shift after the first one. It didn't change after the second one, and then it changed after the third one.
Yeah.
But I will say this:
Three strikes, you're out. Had to. Three
I would
strikes.
I would not be here without my wife. Like
Yeah.
she has been like unconditionally amazing through everything that I've gone through in baseball in our career. Like
Mhm.
she has been unbelievable.
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't know some of those intimate parts of what you're just telling us about your story, but everything I'd ever heard and the energy and vibe I've ever gotten from Alexis coming about talking about you, I've never gotten a bitterness, resentful, angry. She is 100% team Travis and Alexis. And I mean, that's always what you guys are. And so you've hit the jackpot as far as having that relationship and someone in your corner. And that's why you guys are just going to go on to continue to do amazing things. And it's going to be really fun watching it with you guys.
I'll touch on one thing. This is about the Mexico thing. We have had conversations throughout this 2 months that I've signed. And it's one of those things where it's going to take a lot of sacrifice from me and her because we all know Mexico's not the safest place in the world.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
But we've made an agreement. My kids aren't going there at all. So I've been in this pit. I'm still in this pickle. Do I want to not see my kids for 7 months? We're still talking about that right now.
Yeah.
So baseball will, it's not that I'm done, like thinking about being done, but it's also on the path, like, how hard is that going to be if I don't see my kids for 7 months?
Not only for you, but also for them.
Exactly. How hard is it for them not going to be to see their dad for 7 months?
Mm.
So me and Alexis are still talking about it. So as of now, yes, I'm going to continue to play and going to Mexico. Me and my agent are also currently working on trying to get a deal in Japan. Because if we go to Japan, they will go with me.
Nice.
So it's one of those things that's still we're still, as of now, I'm going because financially it just makes sense.
Yeah.
But so we'll see.
That's what people don't see, man. People don't see. Everybody wants to see, oh, he's playing in the bigs or he's playing in this league. He's getting to do. They don't understand the sacrifice, the behind the door scenes with a spouse, with kids, the mindset, what that takes, and the persistence and trust that it takes within each other, but also with God about, is this the best path for me moving forward? Not only for me, but also my family. What's the impact that's going to have on my kids? Those are not easy decisions, dude.
This might be one of the toughest decisions that I probably ever will have to make.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We'll be praying. We'll be praying for that.
If I don't go to Mexico, I don't know where baseball is after that.
Mm-hmm.
I can't just take it. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
So it's up in the air right now. But as of now, I'm going, but that could change at any moment because I've already missed, people don't realize I've already missed a lot of my kids' lives.
Yeah.
My older two. My youngest girl is 1. I got to see her, obviously I get to see her a lot. And then Tucker is 3. Like they don't know any better right now because they're
right.
Well, my daughter's going to be 7. My boy's going to be 6. They're starting to realize.
Mm-hmm.
They're starting to understand, hey, where's dad?
Mm-hmm.
And they were already asking that when I came home for Christmas for Puerto Rico. They're like, why do you have to go back?
Mm-hmm.
I just kind of like have to sit there because they're not young enough to. I can't explain to it because they're still young, but they're noticing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's registering a little bit more.
Yeah. So it's been tough.
Mm. Well, dude, I appreciate your vulnerability, just sharing your heart and your message and your story and your journey. Super inspiring. I could sit here and talk for 3 hours on just the baseball and life and mindset and the family and journey. But dude, we're praying nothing but the best, that you just get the peace that you need to make the right decisions. And, whatever you decide to do, I know you're going to be great and your family's going to thrive and prosper. So, but dude, you're a testament of beating the odds. Trey, I appreciate you being on. We're having some fun doing this and meeting some awesome people. Travis, appreciate your time. Last bit here, if you could give just your top 3 pieces of advice or mindset around just life and family, maybe just some key things to share with the viewers and people listening in. What would you say to them? What would you advise them?
Number 1, don't let anybody dictate your dreams.
Mm.
Don't let anybody dictate your dreams because their dreams are different than everybody else. Just has different dreams than you. That's my thing. Everybody told me that I wasn't good enough. Everybody told us all that we probably weren't good enough to go play college ball at some point in our careers. No, we dictate that if we're not good enough or not. God dictates that. Number 2, this is more of a relationship like with anybody, coaches, wife, dad, communication. Always be in communication with everybody. And you never know who's there to help and has different views of things in that aspect. Number 3 is just life is short. Have fun. Have fun doing whatever it is that you love doing. Because it all comes to an end.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Super powerful. Well, you guys heard it here first. Shout out to Trey. Shout out to Travis. But thanks for watching. Thanks for listening in. We'll see you next time. And as always, beat the odds. Bye, everybody.
Yeah.
Trying to be